Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, circumstances in the peninsula between the communist north and the capitalist south no doubt contributed to the birth of Reverend Moon. A man with a passion for peace, he did not only restrict himself to the search for peace in the peninsula, but went beyond to the rest of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, peace and security are very essential to development anywhere. But can we have peace when there is no justice? Any specter of injustice that goes uncorrected, unrectified, will perpetuate itself, and the perpetuation of injustice can lead to the destruction of the moral fabric of a society. Globalization is reshaping the world in interesting ways. As wealth becomes a reality in some parts, some areas still have to live with a mirage while the rest suffer their nightmares. The collapse of the bipolar world has brought in its wake a tide that is surfed by the powerful few, whilst tossing and turning, crushing and drowning a few too many. The developed countries may suffer a few pangs and stresses here and there, but they have not lost their ability and capacity to adjust and to correct themselves. If America's quality of justice, for instance, was not improving with the passage of time, a black African would not have emerged as president in the United States. And also his emergence as a corrective expression to the excesses that preceded his arrival on the scene. In other words, Obama's emergence was America's quest to restore some political morality back into their political leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, in the developed world, the public's capacity to express moral outrage, to defy wrong, to express judicial consciousness, both during elections and in the lifetime of a government, is what sustains the peace and stability of those countries. Let us not, at the same time, be unmindful of the fact that the yardstick for judging what is considered right or wrong is not the same measure that is applied in their relationship with those of us in the developing world. Ladies and gentlemen, what about the quality of justice in parts of Africa and the Middle East? Had freedom and justice been at the root, or had been part and parcel of Egypt and Tunisia's development, would those countries have rebelled? I don't think so. Development was done at the expense of freedom and justice, by and large. Ladies and gentlemen, Gaddafi had provided so much for his people, but even the Bible says, man shall not live by bread alone. The quest and thirst for political expression is why God gave us free will. It is unethical to suppress it. Leadership must bring the best out of our people so that that creative energy can be nurtured for development purposes. The late Pope John Paul, who helped to bring down communism and socialist governments, subsequently described the private sector as the savagery of capitalism. Because with the collapse of communism, the world expected to see the human face of capitalism. Instead, we are seeing the savagery, as the Pope put it. Governments and their respective agencies in your countries, in developed countries, however, are able to bring to book the excesses by the private sector. The corrupt tendencies by some of the by members, some of them in the private sector, especially the foreign ones, ladies and gentlemen, are really causing havoc in Africa, and they're doing so with impunity. The quality of socioeconomic justice on the continent is low enough as it is. Taking further advantage of our vulnerability will be undermining the fragile peace and stability amongst our people. Ladies and gentlemen, lastly, Ordinary people at the grassroots normally do not harbor ethnic or religious hateful feelings against one another when governments ensure the rule of law or justice. Politicians and those of us who are seeking power must desist from the tactics of divide and rule. We must not allow ourselves to be intimidated by the force of a united nation, the force of a united people, simply because in their unity, they will be demanding accountability from leadership. Good leaders must be accountable to their people and not the other way around. In fact, it is a two-way street. Thank you very much.